Sci-fi MMORPGs tend to get forgotten in the slew of fantasy-themed MMORPGs out there. Sure, there are games like Phantasy Star Online when it comes to online multiplayer games, but the majority of sci-fi MMOs seem to fail. Games like WildStar that had so much potential, and truly it was a very well-developed game, with some flaws of course, but it still bit the dust back in 2018. Star Wars Galaxies would also meet its sunset years earlier in 2011, as well as a handful of other titles. Skyforge is one of the few left in the sci-fi genre, coming on its 5th birthday this year. Developed by Allods Team, known for developing an admittedly foreign MMO to me called Allods Online, and Obsidian Entertainment. Yes, that Obsidian Entertainment.
You not buy, then you die.
If you order now, I'll throw in a second beating, absolutely free.
Skyforge was originally announced in 2014, with the project beginning development as far back as 2010. The world of Skyforge mixes themes of sci-fi taking place in a futuristic world with elements of fantasy like mythological gods and immortals, with some of its marketing quite literally saying, "Play like a god." I remember the game being released with some buzz back in 2015 after its initial beta testing, but soon after, it quickly seemed to fade. So I kept Skyforge in the back of my mind until these past couple of weeks, where I decided it was time to check out the game and see if I had been missing out on anything over the past 5 years. So, was I missing anything? Or a better question would be are you missing out on playing Skyforge? Let's talk about the quote-unquote AAA fantasy sci-fi action MMORPG, Skyforge. Skyforge is a 3D action MMORPG at its heart, taking place in the unique world of Aelion. The story of Skyforge is Aeli, the great guardian god, has vanished, leaving the planet unprotected from its former protector. Now that Aelion is vulnerable, there are malicious gods and alien invaders that have started threatening civilization. The player character you create was more or less part of the task force whom protect the citizens until your group was killed by the invading alien colony. You, however, are lucky enough to be reborn as an immortal, meaning you can't die, so you are brought to the central capital, where you are brought under training of Herida, a goddess. From there, you are tasked with various quests in a central story where you fight Thanatos in the main storyline campaign, which serves as an overall tutorial for new players to get their bearings on how the game works. Character creation in itself is pretty standard here. You have 6 basic presets to choose from for each sex, male and female. All customization options that you would expect are here. Sliders that customize body type, height, muscle, weight, bust size, and even butt size. Yeah, that player model really just smacked and wiggled their butt for you.
Oh my.
All of that is here, as well as being able to choose some accessories like a hat or a facial tattoo. Once you've created your character, you probably notice that you aren't given the option of a character class or specialization. This is because Skyforge's character customization works a little like Final Fantasy XIV, where players can swap between any unlocked class at any time. At the time of this recording, there are currently 18 classes to choose from. The starting classes are the Paladin, your standard melee tank, the Cryomancer, which is an Ice Mage, and then the Priest-like class called the Lightbinder. The 15 other classes vary in role or type, if you will. In addition to the Lightbinder, the support classes are the Alchemist and the Soundweaver. The defensive classes, or tanks, are the Grovewalker and the Knight, as well as the previously mentioned Paladin. The magic or energy types are the Cryomancer, Kinetic, Firestarter, Necromancer, and the Warlock/Witch. Your melee DPS are the Berserker, Monk, Revenant, and Slayer. Finally, the ranged DPS classes are the Archer, Gunner, and Outlaw. Each class plays vastly differently from one another, but you have to unlock the 15 past the initial 3 you are given. More on that later. Gameplay consists of your main campaign quest that acts as a tutorial as mentioned before. Each quest or adventure in the campaign will move you closer towards the end of the campaign map, or what some players call the Yellow Brick Road.
The Wicked Witch of the East, bro!
Beating the campaign will unlock various features for your character to interact with that will help power them up. Progression in Skyforge all stems from the various features that you unlock from the campaign. Progression is also unique within Skyforge since there is no standard leveling system. Instead, your character will grow in ranks indicated by their number on the equipment screen. Your rank indicates your total number of might, which is gained from gear and various other sources. For example, since you are an immortal, you start to eventually gain followers. You can increase followers with a currency called credits that can be spent on rituals that will then increase your might. I won't go further into all the ways you can increase might since it can get a little confusing, but to summarize it, it's a unique system different from just the level mechanics you see in other MMORPGs. Combat in Skyforge is action-oriented with elements of a tab targeting system. Simply look in the direction of an enemy on the screen, put them in your crosshairs, and start attacking with your various abilities. Since it is action-oriented, if you aren't aiming properly, you can miss your target, especially with certain abilities that have projectiles. Most classes will have up to 6 abilities to choose from that are unlocked over time as you use that specific class in combat. Other abilities that further augment combat would be passive abilities called symbols, as well as divine forms and then aspects. Symbols activate passive and active abilities while fighting and fulfilling certain situations like dodging or taking a certain amount of damage. Divine forms is unlocked once you've completed the campaign and is basically an ultimate ability that allows you to become super powerful for a short time. Lastly, divinity aspects are like skill trees that go hand in hand with your divine form once you've unlocked them. Skyforge also has various PvP modes you can play with other players. PvP does have a good bit of variety, thankfully, like capture and hold, cargo delivery, capture the flag, an open world PvP area, arena style competitive, etc. Unfortunately, PvP is pretty unbalanced. Balance will never be an achievable thing, but most MMOs at least try to get a happy medium in which players can try a few things and find something they like to play and then stick with it. Skyforge, however, has a lot of problems in its PvP system, mostly stemming from class unbalance as well as things like pay to win, which I'll cover in the cash shop section. It's a damn shame too though that PvP is in this kind of state, because they do have a good foundation here with its map variety, as well as something called PvP Happy Hour, in which rewards for PvP are increased during certain hours to encourage the community to PvP with each other. Anyways, that's more or less Skyforge in a nutshell. Play the campaign, complete regional maps, power up your character, gear up, run group dungeons, and get ready for endgame. All the while you are listening to some banging tunes while you play from the soundtrack, as well as just taking in some of the beautiful scenery this game has to offer. Like really, this game is beautiful to look at sometimes. And just listen to this battle music. Okay, I am ready to talk about one of the major drawbacks this game has currently, in addition to its cash shop, which is the unfriendly beginner experience. Essentially, once you've hit a certain point, you'll begin to notice that ranking up will become harder and harder. Equipment that drops is no longer improving, and you'll begin to get stuck. At this point, a couple things will happen. First, you'll notice that just about any time you try to queue for a group dungeon, it will never ever pop, due to the low population never queuing for low-level dungeons. This forces you to have to shout in chat for help from just about anyone to either carry you or just play with you to get some decent gear. Another issue is how the campaign ends. Once you finish the initial story campaign, almost all content will scale up to a rank that makes it really hard to continue. At that point, you'll have to join a guild called Pantheons in this game. From that point, you'll have to beg players to carry you so you can just start progressing. It also doesn't help that to really do anything in this game, it takes quite a bit of grinding. Remember, Remember how I said you have to unlock the 15 other classes the game has to offer? Well, classes require a currency called Sparks of Transformation to unlock them. The story campaign will net you just enough to unlock one class at the end of it. Further unlocking will have you grinding as little as 100 spark drops a mission if you are lucky to even get one. It becomes a slog to unlock more things as well as power up your character unless you are getting a significant amount of help. Which leads me to my next point, the cash shop. Just about everything I listed a second ago can be alleviated if you just drop some money on the game. Classes, legendary weapons, currency, mounts, and equipment can all be purchased with real money in the cash shop, which gives a big pay to win impression on any new potential players. While yes, everything is completely earnable within the game, it doesn't change the fact that anyone can just drop some cash in the market and be over the senseless early game grind. I also don't like the fact that you can just purchase legendary weapons in the cash shop. Legendary weapons are some of the top tiered equipment you can get for specific classes. While yes, you can earn some of them from the in-game dungeons and content, some players are going to just outright buy them so they can start having fun now, eliminating the grind. To be fair though, you can only purchase a class weapon in the cash shop, which doesn't affect your rank, so you would still have to grind that out. Other items in the cash shop would be things like cosmetics and mounts, which don't really affect gameplay too much. Still, I can't help but have a bad taste in my mouth from how the developers have treated the cash shop in this game. Ironically enough too, there is a premium status subscription you can purchase as well. Subscription being a loose term. Premium status allows you to earn some additional resources whenever you play content. Your premium can also rank up depending on how much you have spent on the game. I don't necessarily mind this system too much, since you can rank up your premium benefits over time if you enjoy the game enough and the benefits you get aren't too egregious. Another point I'd like to make as well is that even as a free player, you can earn a lot of cash shop goodies by just playing the game, albeit at a very slow pace. Things like premium status time and even cash shop currency is earnable for performing certain tasks or taking part in specific events that occur during certain parts of the year. The last thing I gotta talk about is just the current stability of the game. Disconnects are frequent for what seems like no reason at all. Collision is also a huge pain in the butt. I can't count how many times my character got stuck on a hill and was not able to move at all, forcing me to teleport and start over whatever I was doing. Overall, Skyforge to me in its current state is just okay. There is definitely some fun to be had here, don't get me wrong, especially with friends. There is just some fundamental drawbacks that keep it from being great. Let's get into my final thoughts. Skyforge has a pretty fun combat system since it's action-based. Animations are flashy and have weight to them, and in general, is fun to play and experience. The game has a pretty high amount of classes to choose from once you've unlocked them, 18 in total with more on the way, since 1 or 2 gets released every year or so. The game has a decently friendly community, at least in my experience. Anytime I had questions or just wanted to get a feel for the game, there was someone in chat who welcomed me or struck up a conversation. Skyforge will tickle the sci-fi genre fans out there with its mix of futuristic and fantasy. There are not a lot of sci-fi MMORPGs out there to choose from nowadays, so if you are looking for that sort of aesthetic, this game might be for you. The game's style system, while a little bit basic, at least allows you to customize the look of your hero with the costumes you've unlocked. Some of the styles are really cool looking, so if you like being able to customize appearance in your game, Skyforge has some options. Lastly, the game's art design and music is top-notch in my opinion. Some of the locales are gorgeous, and the music really pumps the hype up, giving a sense of that epicness the game was going for. The game has a lot of pay-to-win aspects in its cash shop. Things like currencies, time savers, and even equipment is sold on the cash shop. It all feels a little much and can ruin the experience. The game seems to have poor stability at times. Glitches can be pretty frequent, some maps don't even work correctly, and disconnects can be extremely frustrating, especially when you had perfect connection seconds before your disconnect. While the game has a lot of classes to choose from, a lot of them are pretty low tier compared to others. Top classes like the Grove Walker and Revenant can just blow some of the low tier classes out of the water, destroying any sense of variety the game might have had, especially in PvP. The game has a somewhat friendly community, but I can't deny that it's pretty low. Checking Steam charts shows a low population on Steam, and while that doesn't cover the whole population base, it's pretty apparent from just playing the game that the community is rather small. Finally, the game is pretty brutal to newer players. Taking into account the large grind you will have in front of you, and the sheer difficulty of finding other newbies to play with sometimes, it's best to just get a group of friends to play this game with if you plan to get anywhere. And those are my thoughts on Skyforge. Thanks for watching. Have you thought about playing Skyforge before this video? Do you currently play Skyforge? Let me know down below in the comments section. I replied to everyone in my comments, so let's start discussing the game. If you liked what you watched and want to support the channel, leave a like down below, as well as consider subscribing to the channel. Any support you give goes a long way, and I really appreciate it. If you want to follow me on my other social media sites like Twitter and Discord, those links are down below in the description. Lastly, as always in my videos, I gotta give a shout out to my loyal supporters who watch all my videos and have been supporting me. Special shout out to Siramez for playing the game with me as well. Anyways, thanks for watching everyone, and I will see you on the next video.